What if I told you your unfinished projects are not evidence that you're lazy? They're evidence that you're becoming someone new. That folder full of half-edited videos, that business you quietly stopped building, that online course sitting at 12% complete, that notebook packed with ideas nobody ever saw. You call them failures. But what if they were never supposed to succeed? What if they were training grounds? What if every unfinished thing taught you something your next success will depend on? Because the second you stop apologizing for your graveyard of unfinished projects, you stop carrying guilt and start moving with power. Stay until the end, because one mindset shift could completely change how you see your past and unlock your future. Okay. Real question. How many unfinished projects are sitting in your life right now? A YouTube channel you stopped uploading on. A gym routine that lasted 11 days. A business idea that never launched. Learning coding. Learning guitar. Starting a book you never finished. And whenever someone brings it up. So what happened to that? You smile. You joke. You say, "Yeah, I quit. I always do this. I'm terrible at consistency." But deep down, that answer doesn't feel funny, because at one point, you truly believed in those things, and maybe a part of you still does. But here's what nobody talks about. Successful people have graveyards too. Old ideas, dead projects, abandoned goals. The difference? They don't carry guilt for trying. And the people who become unstoppable aren't the ones who finish everything. They're the ones who stop treating unfinished chapters like personal failures. Today, we're changing the way you see your past. Let's get into it. Most people imagine success like a movie montage. One dream, one plan, one clean victory. But real life, it's messy. Behind almost every success story, there's a hidden graveyard. Projects that never worked, ideas abandoned halfway, plans that looked perfect until they didn't. But nobody posts that part. You see the finished painting. You never see the hundreds of ugly sketches crumpled on the floor. You see the creator with one viral video. You don't see the late nights, the deleted drafts, the uploads nobody clicked. And this is where people quietly break themselves. They start believing unfinished means failure. It doesn't. Because effort never disappears. It changes form. Every unfinished project leaves something behind. Skills, awareness, confidence, lessons. Proof that you showed up. Nothing is wasted. So here's the question. What if your unfinished projects aren't dead? What if they're compost, breaking down, feeding the next version of you, until one day, something incredible finally grows? Listen carefully. People don't stay stuck because they quit. They stay stuck because they feel guilty for quitting. That's the difference. At first, it sounds harmless. You tell people, "Sorry, I stopped. Sorry, I changed my mind. Sorry, I never finished." But after a while, those words stop becoming excuses and start becoming identity. You begin believing them. Suddenly, curiosity feels irresponsible. Trying feels risky. Starting feels dangerous. Because what if this becomes another unfinished project? And that's where dreams actually disappear. Not when you stop, but when you become scared to begin again. Think about kids. They try everything. Drawing, sports, music, random hobbies. No embarrassment, no shame. Adults, one unfinished attempt, and they label themselves forever. I lack discipline. I never commit. I always quit. No. Maybe you're not broken. Maybe you're exploring. Maybe you're collecting information. That's not inconsistency. That's experimentation. But wait. What if your biggest problem isn't discipline? What if you're carrying emotional debt from every unfinished version of yourself? Because this next idea changes everything. Picture this. You open your laptop immediately. Unfinished folders, half-edited videos, notes with titles like final_FIF2. Ideas you once believed would change everything. And suddenly, you don't feel motivated. You feel heavy. Your brain quietly says, "See? You did it again." You never finish. So instead of creating something new, you close the laptop. You freeze. This is what I call life's carrying the cemetery with you. Every unfinished project becomes evidence against yourself. Every abandoned idea becomes a reminder of who you think you are. But people who keep growing do something different. They don't turn old projects into museums. They turn them into graveyards. Think about that. Museums preserve, graveyards release. They let projects end. No guilt, no endless reopening, no emotional speeches. Project done, take the lesson, keep the skill, leave the weight, move. Because momentum beats perfection. Every single time. And the people who become unstoppable, they don't carry the cemetery. They walk out of it. Here's something most people never realize. The people who win the biggest often quit more than everyone else. Not because they lack discipline, but because they understand something powerful. Persistence and attachment are not the same thing. Average thinking says, I started this, so I have to finish. Growth thinking says, I started this, and now I know more. That's a completely different life, because sometimes finishing becomes ego. You keep going not because it's right, but because stopping feels embarrassing. You don't want people asking questions. You don't want to look inconsistent. So you stay. Months, years, draining energy. But smart people know walking away isn't always weakness. Sometimes it's wisdom, a relationship, a career path, a business idea, a creative project. Not everything deserves forever. Sometimes stopping protects your focus, so the right thing can finally grow. So ask yourself, am I continuing because I still believe? Or because I'm scared to admit I've changed? That one question can give you years of your life back. Imagine two people. Person A started 5 things, finished 3. Person B started 50 things, finished 3. Now think carefully. Who explored more? Who failed more? Who discovered more? Who built more courage? Exactly. Because experience doesn't only come from completion, it comes from participation. People celebrate finished products, but they rarely talk about the attempts that created them. Every unfinished project leaves something behind. A skill, a lesson, a new perspective. Proof that you had the courage to step into uncertainty. And that matters. Now think about everyone who never tried, never posted, never launched, never created, never risked looking foolish. No unfinished projects. But also, no stories, no scars, no growth. Your graveyard doesn't prove weakness. It proves you showed up. Quick challenge. Think of one unfinished project you still feel embarrassed about. Got one? Now ask yourself, what did that version of me learn? What skill did I gain? What truth did I discover? Because chances are that project didn't fail. It prepared you for what comes next. Now here's the part that changes everything. The people who become unstoppable aren't the people who never fail. They're the people who stop turning outcomes into identity. That shift changes your entire life. They don't say, I failed. They say, That experiment gave me information. They don't say, I'm inconsistent. They say, I'm learning what works. They don't say, I wasted years. They say, I eliminated what doesn't belong. See the difference? No self-attack, no shame. No carrying old versions of themselves everywhere they go. And because of that, they move. They try again faster. They recover faster. They create without needing guarantees. That's the hidden advantage. Not perfection, speed, momentum, freedom. Your graveyard stops becoming proof against you and starts becoming evidence that you're willing to evolve. Because the moment you stop protecting your image, you finally start building your life. And that one is the moment you become unstoppable. Here's the truth almost nobody realizes. Your unfinished projects are not judging you. That abandoned channel, that half-built business, that goal you never completed, they're not waiting for an apology. And the people around you, most of them already moved on. But you're still standing there, still replaying old versions of yourself, still treating unfinished chapters like permanent evidence. And that's the trap, because the second you stop living in that graveyard, everything changes. You stop needing permission. You stop needing certainty. You start again. You launch again. You create again. Not because success is guaranteed, but because growth is. That's real freedom. And freedom creates people who become impossible to stop, not because they never fail, but because they never let failure become identity. So next time you look at your unfinished projects, don't tell yourself, I failed. Say, that version of me completed its mission. Maybe that YouTube channel taught you storytelling. Maybe that business taught you timing. Maybe that course taught you what actually excites you. Maybe that unfinished dream showed you what no longer fits. Because not every project is meant to become permanent. Some projects exist to prepare you, to stretch you, to introduce you to the next version of yourself. Your life was never supposed to look like a perfect straight line. It's experiments, attempts, turns. Some ideas grow, some collapse, some quietly disappear. But every single one leaves something behind. So stop apologizing, stop explaining your past, stop carrying old projects like proof against yourself. Respect them, take the lesson, leave the guilt, and begin again. Because your future isn't asking, what did you abandon? It's asking, what are you willing to build next? If this video connected with you, take 1 second and hit the like button. Not for views, not for the algorithm. Do it as a promise to yourself that you're done punishing yourself for trying. Subscribe if you want more videos about mindset, psychology, discipline, growth, and becoming impossible to stop. And I want you to do something important. Comment below. I release the graveyard. Because I genuinely want to know how many people are finally choosing progress over guilt. And remember this, your unfinished projects were never evidence that you failed. They were evidence that you had the courage to begin. Now, start again.